The House will come to order. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 30th day of the session, February the 25th, 2025, Wyoming's 68th Legislature. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to take the roll. Chief Clerk, please call the roll.
Convening roll call for the 30th day, February 25th, 2025. Alamand. Andrew. Angelos. Here. Banks. Here. Bear. Here. Brady. Here. Bratton. Here. Brown Gary. Here. Brown Landon. Byron. Here. Campbell Elisa. Here. Campbell Kevin. Here. Chestick. Here. Plouston. Here. Connolly. Connolly. Davis. Here. Eklund. Here. Erickson. Here. Filer. Here. Geringer. Here. Guggenmoss. Here. Haroldson. Here. Harshman. Here. Heiner. Here. Heft. Here. Jarvis. Here. Johnson. Here. Kelly. Here. Knapp. Here. Larson Lloyd. Here. Larson JT. Here. Lawley. Lean. Here. Locke. Lucas. Here. McCann. Here. Nicholas. Ottman. Here. Pendergraft. Here. Posey. Here. Provenza. Here. Riggins. Excused. Rodriguez Williams. Here. Schmid. Here. Sherwood. Here. Singh. Here. Smith. Here. Storer. Strzok. Here. Stivar. Tarver. Here. Thayer. Here. Washut. Here. Wasserberger. Here. Webb. Here. Weber. Here. Worf. Here. Williams. Here. Winter. Here. Wiley. Here. Yin. Here. Mr. Speaker.
Here.
Locke.
Present.
61 present, 1 excused.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, I will ask this of you. I know it doesn't seem like it, but representatives, it is extremely difficult to be able to hear the good Chief Clerk take the roll. So from this point on, with all due respect, I know you guys have some things that you need to discuss. Leave the floor if you need to discuss them. Please keep the chatter down. When she's taken that roll, we cannot hear over the top of the discussions that are going on in the back of the body. I know it seems like that's a long ways from where things are happening, but the acoustics in this building are awesome. And so please, out of respect for our Chief Clerk and being able to do this in a timely fashion we can hear, I know there are many representatives that their voices are not strong and it's hard to hear. So out of respect for that and the chamber and decorum, please take your conversations outside from this point on. Thank you, appreciate that. Next one, prayer will be led today by our very good Representative Angelos. Body, will you please stand? She opens us in prayer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I want to share scripture with you. I just think that's important to do. And so I'm going to share John 10:10. A thief comes only to steal and to kill and to destroy. And I have come so that they may have life and have it in abundance. And I think we are so blessed to live in a state with much abundance. So join me. Father God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for each representative who is representing their district and their people back home. And we just thank you for them. And we thank you for the abundant life that you have blessed the state of Wyoming with. And we thank you for that. We pray abundant life over each representative, over each of our constituents, over our family members back home, and over everyone who comes into this state. We thank you for that, and we feel that it is felt, and that all those who are suffering, who are grieving, who are mourning, and who are recovering will feel your abundant life. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Representative Angelos. Fellow members and guests, please join me in the salute to our precious flag. All right, members, let's see if we can find our seats and get ready to move on here. We got a privilege of the floor coming up. If we can kind of all get located and recognize some good people here in our balconies right now. All right. Representative Erickson. Yes.
Privilege of the floor,
Please,
Mr. Speaker.
proceed.
Thank you. Today, folks, I'd like to introduce you to a pretty special group that is down here, have come over 500 miles one way to make it here on a bus. And they are a special group in the fact that they are the student leaders at Star Valley Middle School. And they've all run for their positions. If you go ahead and stand up, we'd like to see you stand up. Tell them a little bit more about them. They all look great, but one thing that really impresses me is they've each researched 2 bills as a minimum, and they have multiple questions and maybe concerns and some gratitude that they'd like to express to each of you at some point or the other. But I thought that was very impressive. These definitely are the leaders of our future, and they have so much talent just beaming with it. And I appreciate them making the effort to come over and participate in this process. So if you could give them a round of applause, thank you.
Wow, welcome to the house. 500-mile bus trip. That's automatically, you have to stop at Dairy Queen somewhere. I don't know how that's going to work without that. Well, welcome, and we thank you for coming to the house. And young people, I would like to relate to you, and I'm sure this is shared by this body. Your interest in the political process or how legislation works and how we create our laws is critical to the future of this state and this nation. So your willingness to be able to engage in that. I would look forward to you having the opportunity to chat with members here on the floor. Take that time if you have it, and let us know more about what you've been studying. And if you have questions, I think it would be awesome if you had a chance to visit with these good young men and women here on this floor that are in that process right now themselves. So we look forward to all you're going to do in your futures. Be blessed. Enjoy what you're doing. Enjoy your youth. But we're so thankful that you're going to be the adults that we can look to for direction in the years to come. So thank you for being here and welcome to the house. Another privilege. Oh my goodness, girls, ladies first. Representative Rodriguez-Williams, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Privilege of the floor.
Absolutely, please proceed.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to recognize some folks that are up in the West Gallery, the Wyoming chapters of Moms for Liberty, a group of engaged parents dedicated to advocating for parental rights and education across our great state, from Laramie County to Sweetwater, Natrona to Hot Springs, all the way to Uinta County. These citizens exemplify our Wyoming values of active civic participation and commitment to their children's education. These chapters represent thousands of Wyoming families who participate in their local school boards, engage with their communities, and work to ensure transparency in our education system. Their involvement strengthens our democratic process and reflects the longstanding Wyoming tradition of citizen engagement in public education. I appreciate the opportunity to acknowledge their presence here in our chamber. Please welcome them to the House.
Thank you, Representative Williams, and thank you for being here. We appreciate your efforts in staying involved in the process and keeping everyone accountable. And I wish there were more people that were more willing to be involved in the process and know what's going on, not only in education, but in all facets of government and what we do here in the state. So welcome to the House and thank you for what you're doing. I had another representative up here, but he disappeared. I guess you're on. Representative Filer. Do you have something for us?
Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Speaker. A quick privilege.
Absolutely. You're on a roll, so don't lose your momentum, boss. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I got a good one. I say it every morning, don't I? I got a good one, right? Oh, booze, man. The booze just come right on out. Anyways, I don't need any of the ranchers to get up and guess this joke. So all you ranchers, zip, okay? All right. What do you call a cow without legs? I said don't say. All right, it's ground beef, Mr. Speaker.
Ground beef, all right. Very good, Representative Filer. Anyone else? Please don't try to top that. But anyway, if you have a privilege of the floor. Okay. Journal Committee report, please.
I heard Journal Committee reports that the Journal of February 24th, 2025 has been read and recommends that it be approved. Representatives Posey and Jarvis.
Thank you, Reading Clerk. We have a special event that is on its way, but as you all may well notice, are our guests that can give us this description, are they still in the chamber here, right handy? Mr. Byrd and Mr. DeSelms? If they are, this would be an ideal time. Here they come. It looks like someone coming here. Awesome. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to show you, and I'm sure you have noticed, if you look in the front right-hand side from me, left from the rear, these two beautiful bronze statues we have in the front of the chamber. We saw these, yes, and we've got a young lady that is going to display them for us. And so if these were in the Senate chamber here as of this morning, and they brought them over. And so the two men that are responsible for this and can give us some insight and shed some light on how they came about and where they are going and what the meaning of these beautiful statues are staying with us in the back. And I would like to welcome them to the microphone. Harvey DeSelms, the artist, and former Representative Jim Byrd. Please, if you gentlemen would come forward and give us a good introduction. Gentlemen, please proceed. If the green light's on, you're good.
I guess, can you hear me now? That's the thing. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Speaker, for the opportunity to come and introduce two of the new bronzes that will be here in Cheyenne. Just a brief history. My main point is to invite every one of you to enjoy Cheyenne, enjoy all the bronzes. A brief history of the project. We started in 2010. Prior to COVID, we have 5 bronzes out there that are part of this project. After COVID, everybody had a chance to think about, gosh, am I going to make it? Am I going to not make it? The whole thing that we went through. A lot of people thought and said, I really want to leave a legacy. And since then, we've had 65 bronzes in downtown, all privately funded. We have members of our community, doctors, lawyers, ranchers, farmers, art gallery owners, everything, everybody from in between, federal workers have put their money where their mouth is and where they walk, in the streets of downtown Cheyenne. So these 70 pieces are out there right now for all of you to enjoy. There's a QR code on each one of them. You can learn about the history of the corner, the history of the bronze, the donor, the artist, and those things. And it's ever growing. We have 15 more to put out this year. These two are part of that. Liz, I think probably everybody knows her or knows of her, and we'll hear more about Representative and Senator Byrd. And then Vernon Baker, who was awarded the Medal of Honor for his act of bravery in Italy. And it wasn't until, my gosh, probably the late 80s that he was finally awarded that honor. So these are the stories that we're telling through these bronzes. not only are we telling the history of Wyoming, of Cheyenne, or the diversity that just happens to be Black History Month when these were finished, and that's a wonderful coincidence. The diversity of people, the diversity of wildlife that we have here, and it's a wonderful state full of that, and we're celebrating that. And one other thing that it's doing is slowing people down in Cheyenne. It's an economic development tool because they walk and they said, next corner, next corner, next corner. More bronzes here, more bronzes there. So they're walking around, enjoying the little stores, the mom and pop shops that we have here, looking at other attractions. We have boots, we have murals. So the bronzes have been, you know, Forbes magazine picked up on this, so I think we ought to give all the donors for all the bronzes a hand. So it's the bronzes. The private sector doing gifting to each other. I mean, we all, those of us that have donated to the project and put bronzes out there are so very pleased to be a part of it, and we're very pleased to welcome Liz and Vernon. So with that, I'll thank you again, and please do enjoy Cheyenne. We have a book about all the bronzes on Capitol Avenue. We have a newspaper a folder with 62 of the bronzes in. We have to print that every a couple times a year. So anyway, James, all yours.
Old habits die hard, Mr. Speaker. Privilege of the floor.
Please proceed.
Thank you. I used to be a member of this body, and it was some great times and some horrible times. But that comes with the turf. You sign up for this. And over I hear new legislators say things like, I wasn't expecting this. This job, nothing prepares you for this job. And the statue of this lady over here, my mother, she was an elementary teacher, 28 years. And that was really her number one pride. The legislative job and being in the government was a very nice job. She said she liked it, but her heart was in a classroom. And what she did in those classrooms was she instilled values into young people that education are your keys to success. So with a strong education and some will, you literally can be anything you want to be. The sky is the limit. And that's what she used to teach all of her students in elementary school. And so when she decided to come to the legislature because her heart was so much into education, this was a natural extension of that. Because the government is wrapped around the educational process, and you really are the people who are the measure of success or failure of our next generations. So she would want to tell you, arm those students to the best of their ability, because the world that they're headed for is just an uncertain place. And so that's what she would tell you. And as a member of this House, when she was here, she started a bill that, for the new people, when you get your bill shot down right away, feel good, because she carried this bill 9 times before she got it to the governor's desk. And that particular bill was the Martin Luther King Holiday Bill. It was one of her favorites. It's one that she's known for, but she had a bunch of others that were actually her favorites. And they had to do with young, again, back to tying young people into understanding how the government works and what it's there for. Her favorite bill she talked about all the time was the Buffalo Bison Bill. I don't know how many of you know this, but that is the state mammal. And she brought elementary kids down here to lobby, and she told me about an interesting conversation with the governor and the then Speaker of the House, who wanted to kill the bill because he didn't like it. He said, well, why don't we put an antelope on there? Make the antelope the state mammal. And the governor told him, look at that state flag. Do you see an antelope on that state flag? So sometimes it's the little things. And even when I was here, there was a little bill that I helped push through that years later, just out of the blue, a lady came up to me on a plaza and said, thank you. That bill directly affected my family. And I didn't know the lady, and she disappeared again into the crowd. But that's how this works. And that's what this lady is all about. And so it's a pleasure for these people to recognize and give her that honor. And I would be remiss if I didn't say anything about the gentleman standing next to her, Vernon Baker. Medal of Honor, that says it all right there. But he was from Cheyenne. And I didn't find out until later over breakfast one morning. My mom just mentions to me casually, oh, by the way, you're related to him. So I come from a family of overachievers who homesteaded in this state when it was still a territory. And I feel very deep roots. And just because I'm not up here every day doesn't mean that I'm not backing the good stuff and trying to slow the bad stuff down. But that's a lecture for some other day. I like to thank you for allowing us to display these in the chamber. I'd like to thank you for having the time, Mr. Speaker, for letting me speak and address the body. And just remember that what you do here has consequences. My mother is one of the people, if she was here today, you would know it. She had eloquence much greater than I, and she could convince you how to do things the right way, what she called the right way. But again, thank you for your time this morning. And with that, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you both. We appreciate and respect all of your efforts, for your artistic talents, which are a blessing, but Representative, for your efforts and for your dedication and your respect for your mom and all of your work legislatively. We thank you, and we are honored to be able to share this chamber with you again, and with you, the opportunity to be able to display your beautiful work for all the world to see. So thank you both. Appreciate you being here. All right. Thank you, Bobby. We do have the Laramie High School Chamber Orchestra is supposed to be here, and we have the great privilege and pleasure of being able to listen to those young people do this. They're still playing in the Senate. So with that in mind, we will continue to move on here, and then, Representative Storr, I'm sorry. Please proceed, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Privilege of the floor.
Absolutely. Please proceed.
Thank you. Members of the body, I hope you'll give a warm welcome to a couple of my relatives that are here visiting. In the North Gallery, my brother Peter, his wife Jeannie. They've flown in from the live or die state of New Hampshire and are here to visit for a couple of days. Welcome back.
Welcome to the House. Always glad to entertain family members of representatives. So what can you tell us about your sister? Or no, I mean, so welcome to the House. Glad to have you. That's a long trip. New Hampshire's a long ways from here. So how did you find your way all the way here? No, I shouldn't engage in a conversation outside of the chamber, but anyway, we're glad to have you, and then please enjoy your day and your time and your stay with your family. Any others? Is that it? Okay, we will continue on until we hear otherwise. And then we'll stop at that appropriate time and have the opportunity to hear those folks. He just sat down, but we can do a joint conference committee. There's no messages from the Senate, I understand, so. Well, we have messages for the governor. Okay, we can move on to that then. Please, reading clerk.
February 24th, 2025, to the Honorable Bo Beitman, President of the Wyoming Senate. Your attention to pass into law without my signature 3 Senate Enrolled Acts. No signature of Senate Enrolled Act Number 20 being Original Senate File 6, Residential Property, Removal of Unlawful Occupant. No signature of Senate Enrolled Act Number 13, Original Senate File 96, Wyoming Gold Act. No signature of Senate Enrolled Act Number 16, being Original Senate File 120, Wyoming Prime Act, signed by the Honorable Mark Gordon, Governor. Suspend further reading.
Very good. Thank you, reading clerk. So on next is we have our messages from the Senate. We would do the joint conference committee report from good Vice Chair Tarver. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the adoption of the JCC report for House Bill 28 and ask for your favorable consideration. Basically, we just reversed back to House position, the third amendment. The first 2 amendments we left in the Senate's position, so.
Thank you, Representative. And if you want to look, the Joint Conference Committee, your information is on the bill under the amendments portion, under the amendments tab. So if you want to look that up and read through those changes, that's where you will find it. So, what could you restate that bill? House Bill 28?
Mr. Speaker, it is House Bill 28.
Yeah.
If you go to the website, House Bill 28, it'll show up under amendments.
All right, members, after you've looked at that, we are voting on the Joint Conference Committee recommendation to the amendments or changes to House Bill 28. A majority of the elected members is required. The chief clerk will call the roll.
Allemand? Andrew? Angelos? Banks? Bear? Brady? Bratton? Brown Gary? Brown Landon? Byron? Campbell Elisa? Campbell Kevin? Chestick? Clauston? Connolly? Davis? Eklund? Erickson? Filer? Geringer? Guggenmoss? Haroldson? Harshman? Heiner? Heft? Jarvis? Johnson? Kelly? Knapp? Larson Lloyd? Larson JT? Lawley? Lean? Locke? Lucas? McCann? Nicholas? Ottman? Pendergraft? Posey? Provenza? Riggins excused. Rodriguez Williams? Schmid? Sherwood? Singh? Smith? Storer? Strock? Stivar? Tarver? Thayer? Washut? Wasserberger? Webb? Weber? Worf? Williams? Winter? Wiley? Yin? Mr. Speaker, are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 61 aye, 1 excused.
By your vote, you have chosen to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 28. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have our special event, so we will hold in the process of other things, and then we'll come back to this point. We'll let them get assembled here in the front of the room. This morning, we have a special performance by the Laramie High School's Chamber Orchestra. The group will be playing 3 pieces. They are directed by Jennifer Lyford. Fellow representatives, please help me to welcome these talented people after they get all set up. Let them get all set up, and then we can let them know how much we appreciate what they're getting ready to do. Representatives and guests, I give you the Laramie High School Chamber Orchestra.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for your patience. It's always a trick to find the right amount of room, but it looks like we've got it all figured out. Everybody looks comfortable. You would let me know otherwise, right? All right. Thank you again for inviting us here. We're so glad to be able to play for you today, to bring you some music to start your day. We have a wonderful lineup of pieces for you. The first one is a jazz waltz by the Russian composer Shostakovich. It's arranged by Paul Lavender, and it is one of his lighter pieces. He wrote a lot of serious symphonies and chamber music pieces, and this one has a little bit of foreboding in it, but it does have a very joyful part, and we just really love playing it. So our first piece is called Jazz Waltz Number 2. Thank you so much. Our next piece is a slower piece. It's meant to take you to maybe a different place. You have a lot of hard work that you have to do here, and we so appreciate it. And sometimes it's just nice to close your eyes and take your mind to a different place. This piece is called The Enchanted Castle. It's from the suite from the Middle Ages by Alexander Glazunov, another Russian composer. We really like Russian composers in our life, especially when we're teenagers with angst. We really enjoy it. But this one is just beautiful, and we love it, and we hope that it takes you to your favorite place. If it's not an enchanted castle, maybe it's the top of a mountain, or maybe it's on your boat fishing, or maybe sitting with your grandchildren. Whatever it is, this is called The Enchanted Castle. Thank you so much. We have a wonderful group of students here. This is our top orchestra at Laramie High School. We have 3 orchestras. This is the auditioned group. And we have freshmen, raise your hand, high and proud. We have sophomores. There we go. We have juniors. And too many seniors, in my opinion, because then they're going to be gone. Seniors, where are you? All right. And these wonderful group of students, most of them are great scholars. They love to do science and math and all those crazy things. And the music is what I think keeps them sane. We have a really great group of kids that most of them go on to college. Some of them will get scholarships. We have a lot of kids that go to UW as well as Harvard and Stanford and all these other crazy places. And they're just really normal kids too. So sometimes they drive me crazy and I love them for it. But they're just wonderful musicians, super talented, and I'm so grateful to be able to work with them. And we're gonna bring you another piece today featuring 2 of our senior violin players. We have one that was pinch hitting also on viola, if you didn't notice that. Our pianist, who doesn't get to play today, but she's helping us out here, is helping her with her instruments. Anyway, our soloists are Padma Ramesh and Shelby Cox. They will be playing the fiddle solos on this next piece. This will bring you back down to earth, maybe back down to Wyoming. It's a folk tune, a good fiddle tune called Blackberry Blossom. And there is a stomping part. So if you see it and you want to stomp along, you're more than welcome to. All right, Blackberry Blossom. Trey, are you getting a little too excited? Okay. All right, you did such a good job on the last one. You're going to have to stay standing for the next one. Thank you so much. I hope we can come back again. Thank you.
And I've got to say, I mean, it's, what an incredibly talented and wonderful bunch of young people, and all, yeah. Hey, I'm fixing to ask, Representative, you're on the right track. Do you have one more for us? Surely you brought one more for us.
What's that?
Encore. I mean, you have elevated this house like you can't imagine, and so this is awesome. And if we could just, yeah, if you got one, it'd be awesome. If you don't, I understand, but we're going to be very, very offended if you don't.
So we usually are told 2 pieces, so we brought 3, and then we added this Cowboy Joe as kind of our encore. And unless we have anybody who wants to play a solo right now, we didn't bring other stuff. Right now, our stuff isn't necessarily memorized. We could do what? Oh, they could play a really beautiful Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
Anything these young people can do, that would be great.
D major? Okay, we have to play the right thing. What? The regular one. I can't believe we're doing this. You know what, what's important is that some of these guys, this is where they started. Who started with Twinkle when they were 5? Who started with Twinkle when they were in 3rd grade? 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, okay? So this is where they started, and this is why it's so important, you know, to have them in the schools, to have these opportunities for these kids. So yeah, they'll play you the most beautiful Twinkle Twinkle Little Star you ever heard. Oh my goodness, all right.
That's why it pays to ask.
1, 2, 3. That'll be enough. There you go.
I think it is easy to say this is one of the most talented and beautiful group of young people we've had the opportunity to be in here, and what you've done for the house is just such a blessing. You have elevated this place. You've taken us to places we would not be able to go on our own.
Well, we're happy to do it, and we thank you for what
That's
you do.
awesome. It's awesome. You guys just keep being awesome. It's fantastic. Thank you, Bonnie. Laramie High School Chamber Orchestra. What a wonderful blessing we had this morning. Representative Geringer, can you top that?
Mr. Speaker, not a chance.
Please.
Privilege
proceed.
of the floor. Mr. Speaker, after that wonderful, fantastic performance, I am a little bit concerned. The instructor did say that she asked us to close our eyes during a portion of that. And I'm wondering if we need to send somebody down to the other chamber to see if they're awake yet?
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Anybody else have something they'd like to share? So, all right, very good. Well, Bonnie, I don't know, that was incredible. What an opportunity. And so what a talented bunch of group of young people and a wonderful teacher that cares so much about them. Okay, we are at that order of business of Senate files on first reading. First Senate file for our consideration is Senate file number 4, Senate file 44.
Senate File 44, sponsored by Senator Schuler.
First reading of the bill.
Fairness in sports, intercollegiate athletics.
Senate file 44 will be assigned to our committee number 4, education. That's why I got confused, a lot of 4s there. Next Senate file for our consideration, Senate Joint Resolution 8.
Senate and Joint Resolution 8, sponsored by Senator Cooper.
First reading of the bill.
Political expenditures.
Senate Joint Resolution number 8 will be assigned to our committee number 6, travel. Okay, moving on. Reports from standing committees. Oh, we got some enrolled acts. Okay. You can do that. Okay, we are at that order of business of enrolled acts, signing of enrolled acts. Reading clerk. First enrolled act for our consideration, Senate enrolled act number, oh, excuse me. Yeah, this is House enrolled act number 31. Please.
House Enrolled Act Number 31, being original House Bill 5, an act relating to game and fish, authorizing the Wyoming Game and Fish Commission to regulate commercially guided fishing boats, providing for registration of commercially guiding fishing boats, vehicles, and trailers operated by outfitters and professional fishing guides, providing an exception, creating an advisory board, specifying duties of the advisory board, requiring a report, providing definitions, providing rulemaking authority, and providing for an effective date, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I'm about to sign enrolled act number 31, having been original House Bill number 5. I have so signed. Next enrolled act for our consideration, number 32.
House Enrolled Act Number 32, being original House Bill 97, an act relating to Homeland Security, amending duties of the county clerks, the Division of Criminal Investigation, and the Director of the Office of Homeland Security for identification of conveyances near critical infrastructure, repealing requirements to provide a list of designated critical infrastructure zones to the county clerks, amending and creating definitions, and providing for an effective date, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I am about to sign enrolled act number 32, having been original House Bill number 97. I have so signed. Next enrolled act for our consideration, number 33.
House Enrolled Act Number 33, being original House Bill 116, an act relating to driver's licenses, specifying that a driver's licenses and driving operating privileges cards issued by other jurisdictions to unauthorized aliens are invalid in Wyoming, providing definitions, providing a penalty, making conforming amendments, requiring rulemaking, and providing for effective dates, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
I am about to sign enrolled act number 33, having been original House Bill 116. I have so signed. Congratulations, Representative Ottman. Please.
Senate File 17, sponsored by Minerals, Carbon Dioxide Enhanced Oil Recovery Stimulus, an act relating to the administration of government. Mr. Speaker, your Committee Number 9, Minerals, Business and Economic Development, whom was referred Senate File 17 engrossed, Carbon Dioxide Enhanced Oil Recovery Stimulus, respect the report, same back to the House with the recommendation do pass with the following amendments. Ayes. Representatives Campbell, Heiner, Knapp, Larson, Lawley, Schmid, Tarver, Weber. Excused, Representative Riggins. Representative Heiner, Chairman. This bill was re-referred to Committee Number 2, Appropriations. Mr. Speaker, your Committee Number 2 Appropriations, to whom was referred Senate File 17 engrossed, carbon dioxide enhanced oil recovery stimulus. Respect the report, same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes. Representatives Alaman, Angelos, Bear, Haroldson, Pendergraft, Sherwood. Noes, Representative Smith. Representative Bear, Chairman. Senate File 38, sponsored by Appropriations. Performance Compensation Investment Performance Amendment, an act relating to the administration of government. Mr. Speaker, your Committee Number 3 Revenue, to whom is referred Senate File 38, Performance Compensation Investment Performance Amendment. Respect the report, same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes. Representatives Brown, Campbell, Lean, Locke, Lucas, Riggins, Storer, Stivar, Wharf. Representative Locke, Chairman. Senate File 187, sponsored by Senator Hicks. Public Employee Retirement Plan Contributions, an act relating to public employee retirement. Mr. Speaker, your Committee Number 10, Labor, Health, and Social Services, to whom is referred Senate File 187, Public Employee Retirement Plan Contributions. Respect the report, same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes. Representatives Guggenmoss, Heft, McCann, Yin. Noes, Representatives Klauston, Ottman, Wasserberger. Excused, Representative Rodriguez, Williams, and Stivar. Representative Ottman, Vice Chairman. This bill was re-referred to Committee Number 2, Appropriations. Mr. Speaker, your Committee Number 2 Appropriations, to whom is referred Senate File 187, Public Employee Retirement Plan Contributions. Respect the report, same back to the House with the recommendation that do pass fail. Ayes, no. Noes, Alamand, Angelos, Bear, Haroldson, Sherwood, Smith. Excused, Representative Pendergraft. Representative Bear, Chairman. Senate File 169, sponsored by Senator Hicks. Strategic Investment and Projects Account Repeal, an act relating to public funds. Mr. Speaker, your Committee Number 2 Appropriations, to whom is referred Senate File 169 engrossed, Strategic Investments and Projects Account Repeal. Respect the report, same back to the House with the recommendation that do pass. Ayes. Representatives Alaman, Angelos, Bear, Haroldson, Pendergraft, Sherwood, Smith. Representative Bear, Chairman.
Thank you, Reading Clerk. Okay, we are at that order of business of bills on second reading. First bill for our consideration is Senate File Number 5.
Senate File 5, sponsored by Senator Cooper. School District Vehicles, Flashing Lights Authorized, an act relating to motor vehicles.
Senate File 5, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next Senate file for our consideration, Senate File 26.
Senate File 26, sponsored by Transportation, Protection of Military Equipment, an act relating to crimes and offenses.
Senate File 26, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next Senate file for our consideration, Senate File 46.
Senate File 46, sponsored by Senator Landon, Water and Sewer Districts, Bid Requirements, an act relating to water and sewer districts.
Senate File 46, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next Senate file for our consideration, Senate File 56.
Senate File 56, sponsored by Corporations, Providing False Information to Registered Agents, an act relating to corporations, partnerships, and associations.
Senate File 56, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next Senate file for our consideration, Senate File 74.
Senate File 74, sponsored by Labor, Immunity for Drug Overdose Reporting, an act relating to controlled substances.
Senate File 74, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next Senate file for our consideration, Senate File 86.
Senate File 86, sponsored by Senator Larson, Alternative Teaching Certificate, an act relating to the certification of teachers.
We have an amendment. Representative Thayer, first.
Thank you, Speaker. I move Committee of the Whole Amendment, the Second Amendment, Senate File 86, and ask for your favorable consideration. And I will explain the amendment now. So I'm going to keep this super simple, really thinking about what the purpose of this bill is to address challenges and voids in our teachers in our schools, to benefit our children with knowledge, and to create pathways for the talented adults of Wyoming to make an impact on those said children. This morning was a great example. I did a little research. We have almost 300 positions open in the public school system. Some key numbers is 6 music positions. I mean, just think about if we didn't have this morning, as she spoke, going to UW, going to Harvard, Stanford. We have 9 STEM and science teachers. We have 19 CTE, career and technical education teachers open. There is a need for teachers. So what we've done with this amendment is just kept it simple. We took out on line 2 the accredited and non-accredited that makes it murky. And then added on page 2, line 12, after program, we added or pathways. So an example of my doctor, the individual constituent who texted me yesterday, he would go on a pathway. He would go to the school board, he would show that he had a doctorate, he would meet with the school board, he would show his pathway, he would come in, take Wyoming government and a classroom management class, and he'd be done. That would be his certification. We're just keeping it simple. Again, we're putting the word pathway in page 2, line 19, and then at the bottom of page 2, line 20, after district, just cleaning up, just a cleanup is deleting the rest of the line. So I stand for any questions.
Thank you, Representative. Any members for the first time? Representative Strzok, first time.
Thank you, Speaker. Really, we sat down last night, spent a lot of time on this, and really the goal, as I see it, is just to get some people in there that have had life experiences, that have education, but not in the, maybe in the teacher field, but as some education that would be so beneficial for these students. One thing we were, and it's odd that we even had this today, it was just kind of fun because we were talking about if you had been an opera singer or in the orchestra and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm so tired of this being out in front of people, but I want to give back to the kids, I want to bring them in. They wouldn't have to go through all that. They could just come in and start teaching our kids and just, like she said, make it very simple. So we're hoping this really opens up, makes this bill actually usable. And so we spent some time on it last night and hope this works. And I would ask for an aye on this and an aye on the bill. Thanks.
Thank you, Representative Strzok. Representative Kelly, for your first time, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A question for the bringer of the amendment. What effect on the bill does it have to delete the clause without a prior request by the superintendent?
Any other members for their first time? First time. Seeing none, second time? Back to the bringer, Representative Thayer, please.
Thank you. And really that final line just murked it. It has to be approved by the board. They have to have a program or a pathway. So that just kind of muddied the water. It just, bottom line, let's finish it as at the end of district. There was really no point the more we talked about that, that just muddied the water. Thank you. I ask for your considerable aye on this amendment.
What we did was, that was the bringer, so we'll be done. All right, members, you're voting on second reading amendment number 1 to Senate File 86. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Amendment has been adopted. Okay, Senate File number 86, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objections, objections, it is so ordered. Next bill for our Senate file for our consideration, Senate File 103.
Senate File 103, sponsored by Senator Steinmetz, terminating and defunding diversity, equity, and inclusion, an act relating to the administration of government.
Okay, we have some amendments. First amendment, Representative Harrelson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At this time, I move second reading amendment number 1 to Senate File 103 and ask for your favorable consideration. So yesterday we had an amendment that that went into the bill and deleted out those three words or three different groups. And so it said governmental unity, and then we did person, and we did, I don't remember, it's not in front of me, I'm sorry, I don't have that right off. But as I was looking at it, government unit is not defined properly in statute. And so in this case, we're eliminating unit and putting entity, because that is defined and it does give us a clear understanding, and it conforms better. So what this would do is simply on page 3, line 6, delete after governmental, delete unit and add entity. And that would realign this with what we have in statute and clarify that. Something I think probably just, it's a good conversation, but something we need to do because unit is not defined.
Thank you, Representative. Any members for their first time on the amendment? Question being called. No? Do we have Representative Chestik? Are you headed up there? Oh, no. Okay. You're being asked to vote on second reading amendment number 1 to Senate File 103. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. Okay, amendment has been adopted. Next amendment for our consideration, number 2 to Senate File 103. Representative Chestik, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hereby move second reading amendment number 2 to Senate File 103 and ask for your favorable consideration. Members, this amendment, so the bill itself creates 2 new statutes, our new sections of our green books. The second one is 21-16-201, starts on page 7 of this of the engrossed bill, and my amendment deletes it, just takes it out. And the reason for that is that this is an attempt by the legislature to take over the job of the trustees. We have another statute, 21-7-204A, which gives to the trustees the power to prescribe the courses of study and to generally maintain the curriculum and decide how the university is to be run. This whole section essentially overrules that and takes it over. And it's in complete conflict with the prior statute. I think the trustees should be allowed to run the university the way they see fit. That's their job, that's their training. And this second section that's being added by this bill basically overrules that and tells the university how it should run and what things it should teach or not teach. And therefore, I would simply like to omit that section of the statute.
Members for their first time. Representative Haroldson for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On and against, at the end of the day, we hold the financial ramifications for the community colleges and the university. And we have the ability to say, these are things we don't want to see taught in our land-grant college and our community colleges, or brought into our governmental realms. As the holder of the purse strings, we have that ability. I'm not discounting the good team that helps run our university over the hill, but at the end of the day, this is stuff that we as the body, and this is the decision we're making, do we want this stuff taught in our schools? And I believe the answer is no. And I think by the end of tomorrow, our vote will tell us yes or no, or what we believe on that. So on and against this, I don't believe that by eliminating this section, we helped this bill. In fact, we got this bill. So on and against.
Any other members for their first time? Representative Kelly for your first time, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On and against the amendment, a slightly different reason. I have to disagree a little bit with the last speaker that because we fund, we can tell them what to teach. Not necessarily, but we can refuse to fund things we don't want taught. And here's the difference. Amendment 1 gives us the right to say what we want, but it doesn't mandate that the government amplify our voices with tax dollars.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Campbell, your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On and in favor of the amendment, I think for 2 reasons, similar to what was just spoken very well. As legislators, yes, we are charged with the appropriation of funds. So it's saying we will appropriate this amount to university, community colleges, school districts. Then it is up to them to decide. It is within the authority of the university and their trustees to determine how that money is spent and where it's going to go. Same with our school districts. We have those authorities in place to determine what is the best use of these funds in order to serve our students and our community the best. So when the university is looking at, the challenges, whether it's workforce or pick a thing, how do we best prepare our students to meet those challenges? That is what they are best equipped to determine. So I think it is an overstep and taking the authority away from the trustees and not only of our university, but our community colleges. So best to leave those decisions up to them and not decide that's not a decision for the state to make. So on and for.
Thank you, Representative. Any other members for their first time? First time on the amendment? Second time on the amendment? Seeing none, Representative Chestik, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, I think that we get ourselves in a lot of trouble if we start trying to micromanage the university and tell them what they should do and should not do. That's their job. That's why we have trustees, and there's a process for appointing them. We should trust our trustees to do the right thing. We need to protect academic freedom. We might not like everything that goes on there, but that doesn't mean that we should stifle conversations, stifle speech. That's what this bill tries to do, is stifle speech. And therefore, I would urge an aye vote on this amendment.
Thank you, Representative. Members, you're voting on second reading amendment number 2 to Senate File 103. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. The amendment has not been adopted. Next amendment for our consideration, to Senate File 103, amendment number 3, Representative Chestik, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Maybe you'll like this one better. This one, I think, actually, we should get a majority of you here because I think this fixes a problem that's in the bill. So I have to start off with a bit of a mea culpa, an apology for yesterday at the microphone on Committee of the Whole, I gave a nice little speech about how critical race studies is a good thing and we should encourage it, and there's legitimate work to be done there. And I did so because I thought the bill tried to defund critical race theory studies and anything related to it. Actually, it turns out it doesn't do that, but give me some grace here because I think the reason
I'm sorry, Representative Chestik. I've been notified that I did not notice that we need to have you move the amendment, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I would like to move second reading amendment number 3 to Senate File 103.
There you go. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Sorry for the interruption.
My apologies for overlooking that initial step. Anyway, the reason I thought that the bill defunded critical race theory is because it says so on page, or tries to say so on page 7, lines 16 to 17. The title of the new section is to prohibit the expenditure of funds for things like critical race theory. That's what it says. Now, we all know how Committee of the Whole works. Things come at us really fast. You don't have a chance to read it all in detail. I saw that. So I got up to make a speech about let's not do that. Let's not defund critical race theory. But when I got home last night and read the bill in more detail, turns out it doesn't do it. What's in the rest of this bill, the words critical race theory don't appear anywhere else. They only appear in the title. And what happens in the rest of this section isn't really defunding so much as trying to control the way courses are required to be taught or the required curriculum, and trying to not require students to take certain things. So the title is simply wrong. It's inaccurate. So there's a principle in statutory interpretation that says the titles of sections are not substantive. They're not the law. They are simply guides or assistants to the reader to help find things, but they don't really carry any weight. So the title here simply it looks like it does something that it doesn't really do. It's inaccurate. So my amendment simply proposes to change that title to something that is accurate. What the rest of the section does is place restrictions on required courses. That's accurately what the rest of this section does. So I'm just like to clean up the bill, and I think this one is something that everybody should agree to. Let's change the title of the section to an accurate description of what the section actually does. So I urge your aye vote.
Any member for their first time? Representative Haroldson? Okay, give you a second there. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So in this section, it clearly states that there shall be no funds expended. And so that's in a different subsection. So it's in the first subsection, or in the first statute, it states that. In the second statute, it goes through and explains how that prohibition shall be carried out. And so it doesn't directly address the CRT concept, but it does address the DEI concept. So I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, I don't know if changing those first words, the restriction on required courses, might be the right terminology for it. So I hear what you're saying, but I don't know if fully this is the right approach, is what I would say.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Yin, for your first time.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. So the member's amendment that he's bringing is actually cleaning up based on an amendment that the other chamber brought. That's why you have a blue bill. They made changes on the other side. The other side removes some language related to critical race theory. And so they didn't amend the title of that section as well. So that's why you have that language still in the section title, but it's not in the actual section because they removed it in the other side. So really all this is a cleanup amendment. Up to you if you think the language is wrong. You can talk about what a third reading amendment would look like.
Any other representative for their first time? First time? Second time? Representative Haroldson? Okay, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe probably, if anything, it should say prohibition on expenditures of funds for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then to strike the critical race theory would be how I probably would go at it. I think at that point, it's eliminating that which has been eliminated instead of leaving it in and changing the first structure. So I think it's a good catch. I just don't think maybe that's the way to do it. And I don't think either way it's a make or break. Obviously, it doesn't change the intent of the bill. It just changes, obviously, that title of that subsection.
Any other member? Representative Yin? Nope. Bringer, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The fact that section 9-2-1014.4 might actually prohibit the expenditure of funds doesn't mean that the title of the new section, of the different section, should reflect what happens in a different section. This section, nowhere does it prohibit any expenditure of funds. It does talk about how to structure enrollment and not require certain things, but none of it actually talks about prohibiting funds. I think my language is the accurate. I'm not trying to sabotage the bill with this amendment. I'm trying to correct it to what it actually does and actually says. If you think another amendment is better, try that on third reading, but I would recommend that we at least insert this language here and see if we want to find a different title on third reading, go ahead and try that, but let's at least on second reading, let's make this an accurate statement of what the section actually does. I urge your aye vote.
Members, you're voting on second reading amendment number 3 to Senate File 103. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. Amendment has not been adopted. Division being called. All those in favor, please stand. You may be seated. All those opposed? Yeah, more than 21. Okay. Amendment has not been adopted. Next amendment for our consideration is second reading amendment number 4 to Senate File 103. Representative Chastik, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move second reading amendment number 4 to Senate File 103 and ask for your favorable consideration. Members, this amendment simply cleans up some language on page 10 that I didn't really understand and I think might require some actions from trustees that at a level they don't need to get into. My amendment starts on page 14. It says, I'm trying to protect the courses that do touch on diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think the intent of the bill is to allow those courses to continue, at least as electives. And this bill, Section D, exempts them from the requirements of subsections A and B. And I think it needs to say just that and no more. And that's what, so I'm trying to just clean up some language. So what I'm suggesting, the actual language in the bill right now says that these courses may be exempted in writing by the Board of Trustees or the district board for other colleges, and subject to some Romanet A and B, some restrictions below. And that's kind of complicated and convoluted. And also, I think, goes, again, there's no standard by which we should determine whether they may be or not. May is, whose choice is it? Is it the trustee's choice? Is it somebody else's choice? So I wanted to make it a little clearer and change the may to are. These courses are exempt from sections A and B, and you don't need the rest of it. So it's just clearing it up that universities and colleges may offer these kinds of courses to students who wish to take them, and they won't have the, they won't be in violation of sections A and B of this section. So I just think it cleans the language up, and I encourage an aye vote.
Thank you, Representative. Any members for their first time? Representative Haroldson, first time.
So as we look at this, you guys, thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we look at this, you guys, right here, I'm just going to read this. Academic degree programs requirements of any major, minor, certificate, or department whose title clearly establishes its course of study as a primarily focused on racial, ethnic, or gender studies may be exempt from the requirements of subsection A and B of this subsection in writing by the Board of Trustees or the district board as applicable, subject to the following. This just puts it back to the checks and balance. The board or your Board of Trustees need to look over what is being taught, what is being brought forward, and we need to say, yeah, you know what, you're absolutely right. That aligns with the heart of the statute, and we understand that what you're teaching, this is part of the discussion. The part of the discussion of that's primarily focused on racial, ethnic, or gender studies. We understand that there may be a course where there has to be an exemption, but that exemption is being given by the Board of Trustees or the district board. With this amendment, we eliminate that and just say, yep, pretty much, if you feel this is part of what the curriculum should be, it shall be in there. You don't have to have any, that checks and balances is removed. So I believe that this goes against the nature of the bill, and I believe this actually takes a lot of the intent of the bill away and creates a loophole. So on and strongly against.
Any members for their first time? Any other members for their first time? Seeing none? Second time? Probably none. Back to the bringer. Representative Chestick, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do believe that this amendment is in keeping with the intent of this law, of this bill. It also is in keeping with the intent of my first amendment, and that is to not micromanage and tell the trustees you must put in writing why you think these things and how they don't fall into the sub 1 and sub 2. It's requiring the trustees. It's telling the trustees how to decide on curriculum. And that is their job, is to decide on the curriculum. Again, I urge an aye vote on this amendment.
Thank you, Representative. Members, you're voting on second reading amendment number 4 to Senate File 103. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. Amendment has not been adopted. Next amendment for our consideration, second reading amendment number 5 to Senate File 103. Representative Clouston, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move second reading amendment number 5 to Senate File 103. Ladies and gentlemen, this simply moves the enactment date from immediately to July 1st. This gives our university and our community colleges time to be in compliance and set up for their fall schedule. So we're already in the spring schedule, summer schedule has been set. So this is something they asked for, to be in compliance with our bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Kelly, please, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm in favor of the amendment. This doesn't harm the bill in any way. And working for a university, I understand our course schedules and instructors and class lists are put together many months ahead of time. And this would just give a little more leeway for the university to prepare and adjust.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Haroldson, your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As well as on and 4, I believe this is an intelligent way to give our good community colleges and the University of Overhill the opportunity to read through this, fully understand it, and apply it going into the fall of 2025. So on and 4.
Representative Rodriguez-Williams, please, your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On and opposed, folks, I say let's get this law into effect immediately. We all know what DEI does. Discriminatory hiring practices need to cease in this state.
Any other members for their first time? First time, second time on the amendment? Okay, back to the bringer. Representative Clouston, please. If you so choose.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think this is just a practical way to solve a problem, help our universities and our colleges be ready for the fall since the other schedules have been set. Thank you.
Members, you're voting on second reading amendment number 5 to Senate File 103. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. Senate File 103, number 5 amendment has been adopted. I had a hard time running through that. Next amendment for our consideration, number 6. Representative Haroldson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At this time, I move second reading amendment number 6 to Senate File 103 and ask for your favorable consideration. So really, to kind of dive into the beginning of this, if you go to page 5 of your bill, as we were looking at this, the conversation, we've actually had quite a few conversations about the grant concept and grant idea. And what we didn't want to see happen is, so on lines 9 through 12 of page 5, we see that it's directly applying to the University of Wyoming and Wyoming community colleges. Well, the concern was, what does that mean for special districts and municipalities and counties that are trying to go after a grant? Is this going to hamstring them? And with talking with our good legal staff and kind of putting our heads together, we are bringing this this addition, this subsection 4, and it just simply says, nothing in this subsection shall prohibit a government entity or an employee thereof from submitting documentations or a statement of purpose of a grant. And so what this really came down to, as we boiled this back, is there are groups out there, or not, maybe not groups, but businesses and groups that can offer grants that have a DEI statement. But obviously, we can apply for a grant, and the example's been used for a splash pad for a community. Well, obviously, it's not being used for DEI purposes, so they can apply for that grant. There's nothing stopping them from doing that. But in this, if we don't put this amendment in, there's a gray area that maybe we are actually telling a municipality or a special district or an entity outside of these two that you can't apply for that. So that's the first part of this, is simply adding another subsection, clarifying that language, making sure that they have that ability. The other is on page 10 and on line 15, we find that there was just a mistake in the drafting and or just not maybe a conforming an amendment really. And so we are just striking A and B and replacing with B and C. So this is just brought to us by our good staff saying, could you please help clean this up, or we're going to have we're going to have just some inconsistencies in statute when it comes to the referral portion of that. So really, this is a cleanup, and then one decision that we have to make policy wise, and that is, do we really clarify for our municipalities, special districts, towns, counties, that they have the ability to go after these grants? And so with that, I'd ask for your favorable consideration.
Any representatives? Representative Yen, first time.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. And so maybe someone is coming to the mic to talk about what the language looks like in grant applications, because that's the concern I have. Are we now just saying we're giving you the authorization to lie on a grant form, so we can get the grant, even though we're not going to necessarily have such a statement in record anywhere except just checking this box on the grant form? So is there still liability that's going to be held by the municipality or the grant applicator of not necessarily telling the truth on the grant form, even though we are saying you can check that box on the form? Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Thank you, Minority Floor Leader. Representative Thayer, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On and for this amendment, and that's a great example that we have added value to our communities, our counties. A lot of times they're paid for by some of our key industry in this state, and then they're taken care of by local people that want to see those things. And so this just opens the door that we don't want to close any doors and have not have those opportunities. So thank you.
Any other members for their first time? First time on the amendment. Second time? No second time. Back to the bringer. Representative Haroldson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So for that last question, when we asked about this as a concern, because obviously it was raised yesterday, when we asked about this, there was the direction we got from legal was that that would not be an issue as far as if the grant specifically was directed for DEI purposes. Obviously, at that point, there would be an issue. But as a whole, these grants, they're not specifically for DEI purpose. They're just a grant. Now, the individual that may be applying for that grant, working for a municipality, we'll say, goes to a company that maybe has a DEI statement of their own, that doesn't disqualify that, understanding that what we're using it for is not directly DEI based. And so I believe that from what we've heard through the legal, that we don't have to worry about that. So I think this clarifies. I think there's not going to be a situation where someone has to worry about perjury. If it's a situation where there is specifically on that grant application, the question of basically, do you have a DEI statement or a DEI program? If you check that box as yes, then yes, there's obviously concerns. But that grant would be, from what we've heard, more directly based upon DEI funding specifics. This obviously is going across the board for grants as a whole. So I believe this clarifies and corrects, and would ask for your aye vote.
Members, you're voting on second reading amendment number 6 to Senate File 103. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. The amendment has been adopted. Okay, that clears the amendments. Senate File, 103, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objections, it is so ordered. Next Senate file for consideration, Senate File 106.
Senate File 106, sponsored by Senator Barlow. Motor vehicle dealer and manufacturer warranty rates and act relating to motor vehicles.
Senate File 106, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next Senate file for consideration, Senate File 113.
Senate File 113, sponsored by Senator Hutchings. Greater Opportunity Act, an act relating to professions and occupations.
Senate File 113, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next Senate file for our consideration, Senate File 121.
Senate File 121, sponsored by Senator Boner. Rodeo license plates, an act relating to motor vehicle license plates.
Senate File 121, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next Senate File 138.
Senate File 138, sponsored by Senator Dockstader. Energy impact on Wyoming economy, study, and act relating to energy.
Senate File 138, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, is so ordered. Next Senate file for our consideration, Senate File 145.
Senate File 145, sponsored by Senator Nethercott. Local governments, investments and equities, and act relating to public funds.
Senate File 145, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Next Senate file for our consideration, Senate File 152.
Senate File 152, sponsored by Senator Barlow. Wildlife Management Task Force and State Forester, an act relating to state lands.
Senate File 152, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Now, back to Senate File 146. I threw my reading clerk a curve there. I jumped the line here.
Senate File 146, sponsored by Senator Boner. Consumer Rental Purchase Agreement Act amendments, an act relating to trade and commerce.
Senate File 146, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Senate File 154, next Senate file for our consideration.
Senate File 154, sponsored by Senator Boner. Industrial, wind and solar projects, hearing deadline, an act relating to industrial development and siting.
Senate File 154, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Majority Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the third reading consent list consisting of the following Senate files,
Just the
10 of
consent
them.
list?
Senate File 7, Senate File 8, 39, 79, 110, 119, 127, 137, 179, and 181.
Would anyone like any of the bills removed from the consent list? None? Okay, reading clerk will please read the bills in the consent list.
Senate File 7, sponsored by Judiciary. Protection Order Amendments, an act relating to stalking, sexual assault, and domestic violence protection orders being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming. Senate File 8, sponsored by Judiciary. Protection orders effective during appeal or review, an act relating to protection orders being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming. Senate File 39, sponsored by Senator Olson. Automatic transfer of automobile title upon death, an act relating to motor vehicles being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming. Senate File 79, sponsored by Senator Greco. District Courts change of venue, an act relating to civil procedure being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming. Senate File 110, sponsored by Senator Brennan. Inclusion of crossing guards for Governmental Claims Act, an act modifying the Wyoming Governmental Claims Act to include crossing guard volunteers and faculty. Senate File 119, sponsored by Senator Boner. Expedited professional licensure for military members, an act relating to professions and occupations being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming. Senate File 127, sponsored by Senator Boner. Administrative rules, legislative review, an act relating to administrative procedure being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming. Senate File 137, sponsored by Senator Dockstader. School finance, cash reserves, an act relating to school finance being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming. Senate File 179, sponsored by Senator Barlow. Sage grouse compensatory mitigation amendments, an act relating to sage grouse implementation and mitigation credits being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming. Senate File 181, sponsored by Senator Crago. Eminent domain, energy collection systems 2, an act relating to eminent domain being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
Having been read 3 separate times, the question is, shall these bills pass the House? Chief Clerk, please call the roll.
Elleman. Andrew. Angelos. Banks. Bear. Brady. Repeat. Bratton. Brown Gary. Brown Landon. Byron. Campbell Elisa. Campbell Kevin. Chestick. Clauston. Connolly. Davis. Eklund. Erickson. Feiler. Geringer. Guggenmoss. Haroldson. Harshman. Heiner. Heft. Jarvis. Johnson. Kelly. Knapp. Larson Lloyd. Larson JT. Lawley. Lean. Locke. Lucas. McCann. Nicholas. Ottman. Pendergraft. Posey. Provenza. Riggins, excused. Rodriguez Williams. Schmidt. Sherwood. Singh. Smith. Storer. Strock. Stivar. Tarver. Thayer. Washut. Wasserberger. Webb. Weber. Worf. Williams. Winter. Wiley. Yin. Mr. Speaker, are there any changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 61 aye, 1 excused. As for Senate File 7, are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 61 aye, 1 excused. As for Senate File 8, are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 61 aye, 1 excused. As for Senate File 39, are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 61 aye, 1 excused. As for Senate File 79, are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 61 aye, 1 excused. As for Senate File 110, are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing, Lean, aye to no. Further changes. Brady, aye to no. Smith, aye to no. Further changes. Further changes. Closing vote. Vote closed. 58 aye, 3 no, 1 excused. As for Senate File 119, are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 61 aye, 1 excused. As for Senate File 127, are there any changes? Storer, aye to no. Yin, aye to no. Chestick, aye to no. Provenza, aye to no. Nicholas, aye to no. Further changes. Further changes. Closing vote. Vote closed. 56 aye, 5 no, 1 excused. As for Senate File 137, are there any changes? Stivar, aye to no. Smith, aye to no. Brady, aye to no. Heiner, aye to no. Locke, aye to no. Allemand, aye to no. Wasserberger, aye to no. Lucas, aye to no. Haroldson, aye to no. Campbell Kevin, aye to no. Brown Gary, aye to no. Johnson, aye to no. Bear, aye to no. McCann, aye to no. Pendergraft, aye to no. Knapp, aye to no. Lean, aye to no. Strock, aye to no. Weber, aye to no. Heft, aye to no. Further changes. Further changes. Closing vote. Vote closed. 41 aye, 20 no, 1 excused. As for Senate File 179, are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 61 aye, 1 excused. As for Senate File 181, are there any changes? Stivar, aye to no. Brown Gary, aye to no. Yin, aye to no. Further changes. Johnson, aye to no. Further changes. Closing vote. Vote closed. 57 aye, 4 no, 1 excused.
Having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the House, Senate Files 7, 8, 39, 79, 110, 119, 127, 137, 179, and 181 have passed the House. Majority Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House stand in recess until 2 p.m.
Committee announcements. Representative Andrew.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee Number 4, Education, will meet Wednesday, February 26th upon noon recess in the Capitol Extension Room 3 to hear one bill, Senate File 44, Fairness in Sports and Intercollegiate Athletics. Thank you.
Representative Bear.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee Number 2, Appropriations, will meet upon noon recess on Wednesday, February 26th, to continue our discussion on Senate File 196, Second Amendment Protection Act amendments, continued from today, and we will attempt to take up Senate File 34, School Finance Routine and Major Maintenance Calculations, and any re-referrals as time permits.
Chairman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee Number 8, Transportation, Highways, Military Affairs, will meet in 10 minutes downstairs in PMR 3. And we will be hearing Senate File 24, Special License Plates for Multi-Purpose Vehicles, and Senate Joint Resolution 7, NCSL 50th Anniversary.
Okay. Representative Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your House Judiciary Committee will be meeting at 8 a.m. tomorrow to meet on 4 bills. Senate File 122, Voyeurism Sex Offender Registration Amendment. Senate File 101, Post-Conviction DNA Testing Procedure Amendments. Senate File 171, Ignition Interlocked Restricted License Aggravated Homicide. And if time permits, Senate File 116, Anti-Money Laundering. Thank you. At 8 a.m.
Chairman Byron.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Committee number 6, Travel, Recreation, Wildlife, and Cultural Resources will meet in 15 minutes, 12:15 in room 5 to discuss Senate File 171, 15 minutes.
That's Martin Banks's. Yep. Thank you. Majority Leader Heiner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your committee number 9 is going to meet on Wednesday morning at 7:30. We're going to try and tackle as many bills as number 1 committee has taken upon themselves. So we're going to take on 4 Senate files, Senate File 53, 65, 135, and Joint Resolution 4.
Thank you, Chairman. Representative Banks, do you have something you'd like to announce?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Joint Conference Committee on Senate File 84 will meet today at 5:30 in room 110.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other announcements? Seeing none, you have heard the motion of the Majority Floor Leader. The House will stand in recess. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Okay. All those opposed, no? That's kind of weak. All right. The House will stand in recess until 2 p.m.